Shalom. Our verse is Romans chapter 4 verse 16. That is why the promise is to faith, so that it comes as a free gift and is secure for all the descendants, not only those who rely on the law, but all those others who rely on the faith of Abraham, the ancestor of us all. In St. Paul's letter to the Romans, chapter 4 is dedicated to a discourse on how Abraham was justified by his faith. Fundamental to this discourse is God's promise to Abraham. The Greek word for promise is epangelia. It refers to God's pronouncements that provide assurance of what he intends to do. St. Paul demonstrates that the foundation of the promise is faith. This faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things not seen. Hebrews 11:1. If faith is the foundation, therefore, every other thing is just an extension, a contingent addendum. As the Bible reveals, Christianity has developed out of Judaism. However, it spread beyond the cycles of the Jews, opening the way for Gentiles to also enjoy God's salvation. Questions were then raised as to which Jewish tenets Gentile Christians ought to observe. Two of the fundamental Jewish tenets that Paul discussed are circumcision and obedience to the law, that is, observance of the law. The question is, what is fundamental to salvation that we received in Jesus Christ? Do we need to be circumcised and must we obey the law before we are saved? St. Paul takes us back to the Old Testament to show that faith precedes these tenets. Circumcision in the Bible can be traced back to Abraham. But before the circumcision, however, Abraham had expressed his faith in God's promise, and this was reckoned to him as righteousness. As St. Paul tells us, Abraham later received the circumcision as a sign and a guarantee that the faith which he had while still uncircumcised was reckoned to him as uprightness. Romans 4:11. The law, on the other hand, was given through Moses during the Exodus from Egypt. Since the law was given way later after Abraham, the faith that justified Abraham was not based on the observance of the law. As I earlier noted, the Christian community was made of Jews and Gentiles. The Gentiles were not observant Jews. But since Christianity traces its roots to Judaism, the Jewish Christians felt that for one to be saved, circumcision and observance of the law of Moses were indispensable. Going by this argument, the gift of the promise is not free. That is, we have to do something before we can have the gift in exchange. But can anyone pay the ransom for his life? Psalm 49 verse 7 to 8. St. Paul is not condemning circumcision and the observance of the law. Rather, he is trying to show that the promise is to faith, so that it comes as a free gift and is secure for all the descendants. Who are these? Those who rely on the law, that is the Jews, and those who rely on the faith of Abraham, that is the Gentiles. There are still Christians today who think that God owes them something. They think they deserve recompense for their good deeds. They are like the proud Jew, the Pharisee, who went to the temple to announce his good deeds to God, declaring how he was different from the tax collector. This tax collector, on the other hand, stood by the corner, beating his chest in remorse for his sins. The sinner's faith in God's mercy justified him, while the tax collector went home empty-handed. Luke chapter 18, verses 9 to 14. Christianity is not magical. Magic requires that you do certain rituals to obtain determined results. God's grace is free, and for everybody who has faith, as Jesus will always say, go in peace, your faith has saved you. For all who have faith, there is salvation. May we never lose faith in God through Christ our Lord.